Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you on here, and I hope you guys can try these mandalas and have a fun time doing it. So before we get started on the mandala design, I'm going to explain our tools. So the tools I use are color coded, so they have a color on the top of the tools. When you buy them off of Temu or Amazon, they usually just come clear. So first off, for the twirly tools, I do not use the green twirly for any of my tutorials, so you can set this one aside. As for the rods, the largest two rods, I, again, also do not use for any of my tutorials, but if you're doing like a bigger project on your own time, then of course you can use these. So now to help you understand what I have color coded, you can lay them out biggest to smallest. The biggest one, which is the green one, next size down, we have it marked as the blue stick. And then next size down after the blue is the white stick. After the white stick, it's the yellow stick. And then we have the pink stick. And then last but not least, trying to pick them up, is the black stick. And then of course we have the twirlies. These are self-explanatory. They are color coded already. You can color code them yourself. We use just nail polish on the tops of the tools. We can get started with the design now. So for today's class, we're going to be using this color palette. For paint color number 1, I'm using Craft Smart White. Paint color number 2 is Craft Smart Coral Pink. Paint color number 3 is Craft Smart Metallic Purple. Paint color number 4 is Craft Smart Dark Yellow. Paint color number 5 is Craft Smart Beach Glass. And paint color number 6 is Craft Smart Multi-Surface Metallic Frost Blue. Okay, so before we get started on our moon, we're just gonna practice a couple different techniques and designs. So I'll be using a separate sheet of paper, but you can use you guys' placemat, like the upper left hand or right hand corner. And just open up to a paint color that will be visible on your sheet of paper. Okay, so for the first technique, we're going to use both the pinks, so the pink stick and the pink stylus. So you're gonna take the pink stick first and place a dot. Then with the pink stylus, the bigger end, you're going to place a dot above it, kind of like a snowman like this. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, dip in the paint, dot out one side without re-dipping, and then you can re-dip and do the other side. So you turn it over once and then you don't re-dip. So you'll dip and then without re-dipping go around. And as the paint lessens on the tool, the dots will get smaller. Okay, next technique, we're going to use the pink stylus once again. We're going to use the bigger end. So we're going to practice making some swooshes. So you're just going to dip in the paint. I like to swirl it around in my paint to make sure I get a good amount of paint on there so there's enough to drag. And then you'll place it down and then slowly drag, retracing it to make it longer. So two things I want you guys to practice with making these swooshes is getting them as long as you can. So you can keep retracing it, and then you can re-dip, start at the beginning, and then keep going, seeing how long you can get them. And then I also want you guys to practice getting 2 or 3 drags as close as possible without them touching, like this, or going 1 up, 1 down. Just try to get drags as close as possible without them touching.
She makes it look easy.
She does. Holy moly.
Now you know why I can't take it home.
You're good at that. You get better at that. Oh, that one you do.
Okay, so now we're gonna get started on the moon. So for our center dot, it's going to be one of the pearls. So you guys can go ahead, open your little baggie, spill them out onto your table, and we're gonna sort it right now so that you know what gems we're gonna use for which steps. So you should have 1 big one for your center dot that we're going to use right now, and then 4 medium-sized. So you're all gonna have different colors, so just sort these out in different sizes.
Yeah, I can't even remember what.
So 4 medium ones, and then 5 smaller ones in one color, and 7 smaller ones in another color. And then your diamond teardrops.
First of all, you lay face down, right?
That one.
Okay, did you guys get all those beads sorted out? Okay, so we're going to attach our first one, the big one. So you should have a little paintbrush and this little container of varnish. So this is what we're going to use to stick it on. So you're gonna apply a little drop of varnish onto that middle dot. And then you're going to place your gem and then carefully align it to make sure that this line is going right down the center of the bead, and this line makes like a smooth line through the middle of the bead as well. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but just it'll make your life a whole lot easier.
If it is.
If it is, yeah.
And all the way down at the bottom?
So some might touch the very edge of the moon, some might not. Just focus on it being aligned with the lines.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, so for the first round, we're going to use the pink stylus, the smaller end, with paint color 4.
Oh, you have it labeled.
So we're going to place small dots as close as you can to this little gem that we put. But you're just going to, as if like, extend the lines. So at the base of every line, but getting as close as you can to that center dot.
And paint number 4,
Paint number 4, yes.
small end?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going around it. Okay. You do it however you want to.
So then you should have about half left. So if you did it at the base of every line, you should have still half the around. If you don't, then you can leave it, but I do, so I'm just going to kind of finish it off, adding dots.
Okay, so we need to do that. Okay.
Okay, next up we're going to use the pink stylus, the bigger end, and we're going to use paint color 6. And these dots are going to go basically not above each dot like this, but above, they're in between, or in other words, in between the lines.
Or the bigger one or the, yeah.
You said 6? In between the lines.
Did you say
Yes, paint color 6. Okay, next step, we're going to use the white stylus. We're going to use the bigger end with paint color 3. And we're placing each of these dots on the lines.
Paint color 3, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay, next we're using the white stylus again. We're going to use paint color 5, and we're using the bigger end of the white stylus. And we're putting these dots in between the lines. Okay, now we're going to add our next row of pearls. So once again, you can pull out your varnish and your little paintbrush. We're putting these on the lines. So I'm gonna put my first one on that middle line. So be very careful to make sure you don't drop it on the paint.
It's the 5.
So,
The 5.
yes, the ones with 5 pearls. We're putting these on the lines, but every other line, okay?
Start in the center.
Oh, every other line.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stylus and we're going to use paint color 4. We're gonna start with the bigger end of the pink stylus, and you're going to place a dot above our pearls. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, dipping into the paint, and a small drag around the pearl.
What number?
4. So for these drags, try not to dip too much into the paint because we don't want a big, fat, blobby one. We want a nice, thin, elegant one.
I was hoping we'd get to that part. So it's a dot
And 4, right?
You said the small end?
Big end for the dot and then the small end for the little drags. Yeah.
I think 4.
Okay, next step, we're going to use the pink stylus once again. We're going to use paint color 2. We're going to start with the bigger end of the pink stylus. You're going to place 1 dot above the designs we did, and then 2 dots to the side like this. Then you'll switch over to the smaller end, dip in the paint, and do another drag on either side.
You're just adorable.
Okay, do the big dot. Yeah, 2. Oops, do the big dot first.
One there.
Got it.
No, I'm trying to look what she's doing. One up there and then 2 on the side.
big one for the other dots too.
No. But
Okay, so the next step, we're gonna add more of our little gems. So you're gonna take 4 of these little diamond teardrops,
Uh-huh. 4. Awesome.
and we're going to place a little dot of varnish in between our designs here. And then you're gonna just try and wedge in the, whoops. See, this is what you don't wanna do.
Well, at least it's nice to see that we're not the only ones.
I didn't do any damage.
So you wanna wedge it in between. You're gonna wedge it in between the designs as much as possible, like that. So I have a little space here under my teardrops that I want to fill in. So I'm just gonna put a small white dot there. So if you have that little gap,
Oh, okay.
which would be color what?
And you're using the bigger size on the pink?
yeah,
And what color number?
1.
1.
So if you have that little space, you can add a little white dot in there. So don't put your varnish away quite yet because we still have to add these 4 pearls. So take your medium-sized pearls, you should have 4 of them. And we're gonna put them right above our teardrops. Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stylus. We're going to use the bigger end with paint color 6. So bigger end, placing a dot above our pearls, then you'll re-dip the bigger end and dot around, re-dip and do the other half.
The little end or big end?
No.
Big end.
Because if you don't.
White stylus. And we're going to use paint color 1, and we're going to use the bigger end for the first dot, then you'll switch to the smaller end and dot around.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next step, we're gonna use the white stylus. the bigger end with paint color 2. So using the bigger end for the first dot, then you'll re-dip the bigger end and go around.
Without me dipping it, you understand that?
Yes, I got that.
You say, oh, paint color 2.
Paint color 2.
Okay.
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, next step, we're going to use the the white stylus with paint color 4. Doing the exact same thing we just did, using the bigger end for the first dot, re-dipping the bigger end, and going around.
Forward. Okay. She said the bigger one first.
Always.
See,
Always using the bigger
Okay.
end. Okay, next step, we're gonna use the white stylus again. We're gonna use the smaller end with paint color 5. We're going to start here in between our designs, and you're going to drag up to the top, and then you'll start in the same spot and drag up the other way.
That's with the smaller end?
Yeah.
Smaller end, yes. So make sure to get a lot of paint on your tool, swirl it around in your paint, whatever you need to do.
What is the paint?
5, paint color 5. Okay, so next we're going to glue on the remaining pearls and gems. So in each, wherever we did these swooshies, so there's 3 spaces like that, you're going to take 2 of these teardrop gems and position them in between, kind of like a heart like that.
yeah.
So also, just so that when we place the beads later on, so everything stays even, you want to make sure that the line is poking out from in between the gems. So try to align it in a way so that the line is coming through in between the gems.
Okay, like a heart.
Once
Yeah.
you've got those hearts, you're gonna place the rest of your little pearls. So these are gonna go on each line. So above our designs here and above the hearts. Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stylus with paint color 3, and we're going to use the bigger end first, placing a dot above, and then you'll switch to the smaller end and go around. Okay, next step, we're gonna do basically the exact same thing. The pink stylus, bigger end with paint color 6, bigger end for the first dot, and then smaller end to go around. Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stylus, doing the same thing with paint color 2. Bigger end for the first dot, and then you'll switch to the smaller end.
What number? 2. Yeah.
Okay, for the second row, it was 6.
You made a lot of money. Some creative little person. Oh, I'm sure. is what it is.
Okay, next step, we're gonna use the pink stylus once again. We're gonna use paint color 1. And we're going to use the bigger end for the first dot. And then instead of switching to the smaller end, you'll just re-dip the bigger end and go around.
Okay, fill it up then. Number one, she said, number one, big dot.
Okay, next step, we're gonna use the pink stylus bigger end with paint color 4. And we're gonna start at the tippy top of our design. And you're going to
Eyebrows.
drag down.
Number 4?
Did you say the big end?
Yes.
You big eyebrows.
Ooh, yours is pretty, Sandy. Pink number 4, okay. Start on the left, Kathy. Start on the left.
Okay, next step, we're gonna use the pink stylus again. We're going to start with the bigger end, and we're going to use paint colors 5, 3, and 2 in that order.
5, 3, 2. Oh.
So we're going to use the big end first with paint color 5, and you're going to get an approximated, like, don't go higher than these swooshes and don't go lower. So approximately the same height that they are. And you'll drag down. Then you'll switch to the smaller end. And then with paint color 3, you'll do 2 drags on either side. And then also with the smaller end, you'll use paint color 2 and do 2 more
So
drags.
5, 3, 2.
5, 3, 2.
5, 3, 2.
I'm gonna do my 5 first.
Big then small. I know.
And then if you have less room in between and you can't do all 5, you can skip the last color, or if you have more, you can add another drag, just choosing whatever color you want.
That one's almost done.
Okay, so we're going to start on all these rows of dots here. So we're going to start right above the 4th line. We're gonna use the black stick with paint color 3, and you're just going to follow this black line right across, just placing light dots right next to each other. Just
I only have 2.
So you have to skip this part.
Okay, next step, we're gonna use the black stick again, using paint color 6. And we're gonna put these dots above the in-between. So not above the dots like this, but above the in-between.
What color? 6.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the white stylus, smaller end, and we're gonna use paint colors 2 and 4. So going in between this gap here, in between these two lines, you're going to do drags from the top to the bottom. So it doesn't matter how you do the colors, but one going up and then the next one with a different color going up this way. 2 and 4. So you'll do this in between this gap, or in this gap. If you don't want to keep wiping your tool and switching it, you can use the pink stylus bigger end. It's the same size, so you don't have to keep wiping your tool.
Now tell me if that's bigger. Bigger end on both of them?
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stick
Oh, yeah.
and we're gonna use paint colors 1 and 5.
Yeah, pink stick. 1 and 5.
And we're going to make a row of dots alternating the colors. So 1.5, 1.1, and alternating like this. So next step, we're gonna use the same tool and the same colors. And we're just basically doing the same thing, but but in between, but still switching colors.
Okay.
So once you're done with that row, if you look carefully, it'll look like your dots are slanting one way. So for the next row, you're just gonna kind of switch the pattern. So instead of putting my white one here to continue the slant, I'm going to put it here to make like a little curve.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, next step, we're still gonna use the pink stick. We're gonna use the paint colors 2 and 3. So we're going to continue this pattern of, well, not pattern, but we're doing like above the in-between. So you'll do one row with paint color 2, and then the next row fully paint color 3. Okay, next step, we're gonna use the pink stylus, bigger end with paint colors 4 and 6. And we're going to do these swishes again. So I know there's no line to guide us, so try your best to keep it even.
4 and 6.
So there's a little corner there. So once you guys do this, there's a little corner that left. You can fill it up however you want. Just random dots.
Again, and then whatever color. And then, and she said you can.
4.
4 and 6. Shut up. Did she just say what I think she did? It looks good.
So, and like that, you guys are done with your moon. So there are 2 little holes at the tip. So you'll take your little dangly thingy and put it through the one that's closer to the tip. And then, do we have strings? Then you guys will have to figure your strings on your own, but there's a second hole.
Why, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. But there's a second hole here for a string that you can put through. But yeah, we're done.
That's hilarious.
Yep, that's her reading.
Pull out, wasn't it?
But it's like one row.
That's what they told me. Boys on your team.